Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Robert Blevins from Adventure Books of Seattle, and I'm on vacation again up here in the Great Olympic Mountains of Washington State. You can see behind me, that's either Mount Jefferson or Mount Eleanor. I'm not really sure, but could be, it's one of them. And I'm up here for several reasons. Just camping out, having some fun, listening to NFL games, watching my little portable television with the plays the DVD movies. I mean, you do have to have something to do up here at night. But this is more of a video log than anything else. More like a vid log, I guess you could call it. What I'm going to do here today is I want to talk about something in the famous D.B. Cooper case, although to a certain degree it doesn't really have a lot to do with D.B. Cooper, but about a person who was involved in the case and continued to be involved in the case right up until the moment he was beaten to death brutally in his own garage in Woodinville, Washington. Now, the person we're talking about here is a man named Earl Cossey, and Earl Cossey was a parachutist. He was a certified rigger who packed parachutes for other jumpers, but he was also a junior high science teacher in his hometown of Woodinville, and he was well liked there. And in April of 2013, somebody beat him to death in his own garage. There were no witnesses, and his body was not found for almost 2 days after his killing. And to date, the organization responsible for finding out who did this brutal crime is the King County Sheriff's Office. And they have not a clue who did it, at least up till now, and it's been over 2 years. Now, I think that there's a couple of things that the King County Sheriff's Office has overlooked about Mr. Cossey. I do want to talk about Mr. Cossey. Now, Mr. Cossey came into the D.B. Cooper case in 1971 when it happened. And for those of you who aren't real familiar with the D.B. Cooper case, I'll give you the short version. A man dressed in a suit with dark hair and sunglasses hijacked an airplane, a 727 by the way, between Portland and Seattle, gained control of the aircraft, and when the plane landed in Seattle, he convinced the FBI to give him $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes, and the plane took off again from Seattle, and between there and Portland somewhere, he jumped out the back air stairs. They had air stairs that lowered like this out near the tail of the plane, and he dropped them, and he went down there with at least one of the parachutes and jumped. Nobody's seen him or the money again, or any evidence of him, including the briefcase he carried, the paper bag he carried, his body, nothing. The only thing that was ever found was a placard that flew out of the aircraft after the stairs were opened, and $5,800 in cash that was found on the banks of the Columbia River several miles from the flight path. So nobody's been able to really explain how it got there, although there are some theories. Now, the problem I have with Mr. Cossey's killing, there's a few problems. First, some background. After he was killed, a few days after that, some good Samaritan mailed back Mr. Cossey's credit cards, driver's license, and a player's card from a local Native American casino. As far as I know, no evidence was actually gained from that, and although the media went public quite a bit with, please come forward, tell us where you found these things. You're not a suspect, we just want to know where you found them because it might help us lead us to the killer. Well, nobody came forward. Personally, I don't think they were mailed back by the killer. I think somebody did find them, but it would have been helpful. And if you're seeing this now and you're the one that mailed that stuff back, you need to come forward and to say where you found them. Now, one of the problems I have with the King County Sheriff's Office in the Cossey murder is that they have repeatedly asked for help from the public. Please help us solve the case. Fine. How about giving us something? They haven't said anything about the case at all. The chief of police in Woodinville did admit in an article in the Woodinville Patch, that's an online newspaper, that they would classify it as a burglary. Well, I agree. I think it was a burglary. But and also, in my own research, I found out through police records that 3 other burglaries happened within about a 2 to 4 block radius of Mr. Cossey's house within a 2-week period prior to his killing. And in at least one of those cases, a witness saw somebody leaving on a red motorcycle. But yet, when you try to get any information about the case from the King County Sheriffs that might assist in helping solve it, they they just won't tell you a thing. It's just a big secret to them. And I'm going to cover a little more of that later. Well, it sure is beautiful up here, I'll tell you that. If you've never been up in the Olympics, you should go if you get a chance, because it's just stunning, really. And today it's October, and yet the weather is just perfect. It's probably about 65 degrees and not too hot, not too cold. Very nice day. Now, there is an interesting thing about Mr. Cossey as it relates to the D.B. Cooper case. He was brought into the case because he is the person who packed at least 2 of the parachutes that were given to Cooper. So whenever, after that, anytime that somebody brought the FBI a parachute or a scrap of a parachute, they always went to Mr. Cossey for the identification. And they were probably right in doing this. But on the other hand, for years and years, Mr. Cossey also told the media in scores of articles that he was not only the one that packed the parachutes, but he also owned them, and he was the one that delivered them to SeaTac Airport. And that is not true. And the reason that we know that isn't true is because of a document that was created by the FBI by FBI agent John Detlor shortly after the hijacking, which states how the FBI got the chutes, how they were, who they belonged to, and how they were delivered to the airport. And the truth is, the parachutes were owned by 2 different entities. The one that Cooper actually jumped with, plus another one, were owned by a man named Norman Hayden in Kent, Washington. He still lives there, runs a business there. And the other 2 were owned by Issaquah Sky Sports. One of those was a trainer and did not actually work. And the people who actually delivered the parachutes to the airport were the State Patrol delivered the ones from Issaquah Sky Sports. Norman Hayden got a cab to come to his place of business or wherever he had the parachutes down there in Kent, and he put the parachutes in the cab, and he told the driver to take them to SeaTac Airport and give them to whoever they were supposed to go to. And that's how they actually got delivered, and those are the people that actually own them. Now, over the years, I've wondered about this. Is it really a bad thing that Cossey sort of perpetrated the fable that he was the owner of the chutes and that he actually delivered them? And I've come to the conclusion that no, it was probably harmless, because in the long end of things, he was probably the best equipped to identify any chutes that were brought to him. But there is a problem here, and the problem is that if Cossey did actually identify one of the chutes as Cooper's, it may have come out at that time, with all the media coverage that would have happened because of that he had not been totally truthful about the other things with his involvement in the case. So in 2008, somebody found a parachute down in Amboy, Washington, in an area where the FBI said, this is the prime zone, this is the spot where we think Cooper actually jumped. And 2 kids found a parachute buried in the ground, and partially buried, and the father came and dug the rest of it out, and the FBI came, and they looked at it. Now, this chute did not have a container or a harness attached to it. Now, what does that mean? When a chute comes down out of the sky, no matter if it's a cargo chute or there's a human being behind it, it has to have a container and a harness. So what this means is once the chute and whatever was attached to hit the ground, a human being of some kind or another, someone or another, had to disconnect the harness from the parachute, had to disconnect the container. And they were not found at the location where the chute was. So what you're looking at here is a parachute that the FBI also said was the right color, the right size. That's what they said initially in their media reports. And then they said it was found in the right place. Now, but no container and harness were found with the parachute, which is very suspicious, because why would somebody jump with a parachute out there in Amboy, then disconnect the container and harness from it, take those away, and then bury the rest? This isn't Normandy, this is Washington State. Nobody would have a real good reason to do that. But somebody did. And if they did, there's an animal down there. It's a bird. Anyway, well, there's a lot of wildlife out here. First it sounded like a dog barking. Anyway, let me get back to where I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone or not. Huh. Could be a coyote. Anyway, the point here being, so they find the chute like this, no container, no harness. Right place, right color, right size, they say. So they take the parachute, put it in the trunk of a car, and they take it up to Earl Cossey's house in Woodinville, Washington. They take it out of the trunk of the car, dump it out in the driveway in front of the garage. Cossey looks at it for less than 10 seconds. That's what he said in the media. He said, I knew it wasn't Cooper's in less than 10 seconds. He said, no, that's not the one. So they put it back in the car. They take off. Now, because of Cossey's other, I want to say lies. I don't know. Let's just say exaggerations, okay? Yes, he lied, but, it's harmless. But it does call into question his credibility that he would actually identify the right chute if it were presented to him. Because if he says it's the chute, then the FBI is going to say it's the chute, and then the story is going to come out sooner or later that chute did not actually belong to him, neither did he deliver it to SeaTac Airport. And it's going to cause a lot of problems. And he's going to be embarrassed. So what do? Maybe you just say it's not the chute. I don't know, but it's a point, and you have to wonder about it. Now, I contacted the FBI extensively about the Amboy chute. I sent them several messages. Now, the first one was closer to when they found it in '08. Excuse me. Around, I guess about 2010. And they wouldn't tell me anything about it. And so I went, and then they had already declared that it wasn't Cooper's. No, it's not the right chute. By a preponderance of the evidence. That's the only reason they gave. They didn't say it's the wrong size. They didn't say it's silk and the one that was given to Cooper was made out of ripstop nylon. They didn't say they didn't say why. They just said by a preponderance of the evidence. But they've never answered any inquiries as to what that evidence actually was. And then when I went back and questioned them 5 years later, 5 years after they dismissed it as evidence, this is what they told me. We can't talk about it because it's evidence in an ongoing case. That's what they told me. I got it in an email, also over the phone. So my question would be, if the Amboy chute isn't real, if it doesn't belong to Cooper, then why couldn't they give a reason why it wasn't? A specific reason. And why would they say it's evidence in an ongoing case 5 years after they said it wasn't? Does that make any sense? Doesn't make any sense to me. Hi. I did determine while I was away from the camera that the noises that I thought were a bird is right. There was crows. There's a couple of crows around here, and because I have a campsite going with food not laying out, of course, but that's why they're circling around. They like to scout out campsites. Now, I'm pretty far off the main road up here. I don't know. That's in order to get out of here, you have to drive back down the hill this way, about a mile and a half, and then go down into this big valley. I'll show you later on it. Goes down about half a mile, and then follow along Jefferson Lake Road all the way back out to the highway. It's probably about 15 to 20 miles. But the reason I come out here, it's just beautiful, clean, and you meet a better class of people up here in the Olympics generally than you will like in some parts of the Cascades. I've gone out to the Cascades and gone on to dead-end Forest Service road spurs and saw remains of where they were cooking up methamphetamine or something, or I've seen underage kids out there in stolen cars parking and shooting off guns, stuff like that. Up here, mostly you see nice families, hikers, just ordinary folks, having fun like they're supposed to, rather than some of the crazy stuff that goes on closer to Seattle and Tacoma. Anyway, that's my reason for coming up here. I'm going to go to the camera, and I'm going to let you see some shots around where I am, so you can get a kind of a better idea of this beautiful country. Thank you. Here we go. This is the mountain I was shooting in the background. I'm going to try to get a little closer on it so you can actually see what it looks like. Yeah. It's really beautiful. Ridge goes for quite a while. Let's go around to here. We'll take a look at Mount Illinois. Yeah. I'll walk over here, we'll take a look. Let's see if I don't bounce the camera too much. Here we go. Yeah, this is the kind of country we have around here, boy. That's the ridge at Mount Jefferson. Okay, I'm going to try to get a panorama of this whole area a little bit closer up. Kind of see what we're looking at here. I'm standing on the Forest Service Road, and I think that ought to do it. Just go around like this. You can take a look at what's actually up here. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It's really nice. You gotta come up here sometime. I invited some people to come up here with me, but I don't get too many people who want to do the camping like I do. This is the road I came in on. This little road right here. Anyway, they don't call it the Evergreen State for nothing. And I want to thank you for watching. Bye-bye.